Welcome to the study. This is Professor Hemlock here. Today, it is Keys for Performance Tuesday. Let's go over this week's Mythic Plus affixes, and I am really excited to test out some new builds this week with all the Covenant changes. Woohoo! So first off, it is a Tyrannical week, meaning bosses have more HP, so single target is going to be prioritized this week. Bolstering effect is going to amplify this. So bolstering, if you're not aware, what it simply does is as mobs die, they then boost the HP of mobs that are still alive. It is essentially a 20% health buff, so if a mob is at 1% health and it gets bolstered, it adds 20% of that 1%. So it is very favorable to kill mobs evenly across the board, regardless of if a mob in the pack starts out really, really high health or a bunch of them start out really, really low. Now, in all dungeons, some mobs do not bolster and some do bolster. Typically, non-elites do not bolster, but you'd have to look at the specific dungeon to be aware of that. Generally, if they are elite mobs, then they will cause bolstering. So make sure you are always targeting the highest health mob possible to maximize your kill speed of that pack. Essentially, if you do focus fire down one mob and you kill it first, it'll bolster the remaining mobs, and then will reduce your kill speed. So it is very important to keep that kill speed high by making sure everything dies nice and evenly. Storming, this is an effect that is kind of new here. Storming essentially causes little tornadoes to be spinning around. Arcane does suffer a little bit from storming due to how storming is going to affect melee more heavily. So when there is a bunch of melee that are tight in a group, tornadoes tend to spawn on individual people, and then you're forced to have a lot more movement. Since we are in melee a lot of the time using Arcane Explosion, that is going to impact us. So we need to be careful. They don't do a lot of damage. They did nerf them very early in the expansion, so they do not do a lot of damage. But it will cause you to suffer getting booped up, a little bit of damage, and it could cause you to get hit by other effects that may kill you. Things like natural pack AoE damage and things like that will affect you more, or cleave damage, things like that. Okay. Of course, it is Prideful. Something you'll want to make sure you get at all times is Prideful for Tyrannical week. You'll want to make sure you have Pride for as many bosses as possible. Generally, this week, though, this is not going to be that bad of a week. Bolstering is kind of okay for arcane mages. Just make sure that you're barraging the highest health target at 35% if you're running the Execute Legendary. If you pump one full barrage into a target that's an Execute barrage, make sure you then switch targets to the next target that is at the highest percentage health. That is going to be very important. This week, I am Venthyr, so I will be testing out a Harmony build to see if it plays any better and how the DPS actually feels. So I'm excited for that. That may be an effective change that could be very helpful on bolstering, since you're dealing generically even damage throughout especially when you're not using your Touch of the Magi windows. It's really even split damage. For storming, you don't want to have a lot of melee in your group. So when you're forming your group composition, this is a caster-friendly week, so you'll want to make sure that you're splitting out your casters. Or if you're going to run a melee DPS, something like a non-Holy Paladin healer is going to be beneficial. Holy Paladins are in melee range a lot, so if you're running a melee friend, make sure that you are not compounding your problems by having the tank in melee, the melee DPS in melee, and then your healer also in melee. So that is something to be aware of. Specifically, anything that's going to have really good even AoE damage is going to be beneficial. Really, every caster spec is going to be good at this, whether it's other mage, if you wanted to bring along a fire mage friend you might have, and then, hopefully beat them on the DPS meters. That'd be the dream. But really, a spread caster group is going to perform really well. Then making sure that for your cooldowns this week, you really want to make sure that you are having every cooldown available for the boss. Very, very, very important that when you're pulling a boss, since they have so much more health and deal a lot more damage, this is where keys will fail. So you need to go into every boss having your cooldowns up, even if this means you may lose out on overall DPS because you held cooldowns one additional pack prior to the boss than you probably might have been able to get away. It's better to be safe than sorry. Just to make sure you have those cooldowns up for the Tyrannical boss. I want to wish everyone good luck on their keys this week. Hopefully you pound some keys, get some great timed keys in. Also with the new Valor system, make sure you keep your pieces of loot. You don't need to disenchant them anymore. You can keep them if they're good and then simply upgrade them. Okay. I hope everyone has a great week, and we will see you next time in the study.